I always love the name Kislev. It's like you got the kiss and you got the love in there. And in a way, it is a great holy month. Just to segue and riff based on what we were talking before about Or Yashar, or Chazer, light coming above down or down going up, that so we have, there's two ways to count our calendar. Either like in the Chumash, the first month of the year is actually Nisan. Tishrei is the seventh month. We observe it in the way that Tishrei, the first day of Tishrei, is Rosh Hashanah, right? So what is, and we spoke about this at length in the past, that the two ways, if we look at the year cycle as emphasis on creation, birth of creation, or birth of a nation, to elevate a racist term, idol, birthing of the Jewish people, which began with Nisan. And in fact, that is how we know the whole idea of Rosh Chodesh is the Rosh Chodesh Nisan. That's the first, in fact, openly just mentioned mitzvah in the whole Torah. While Israel was still in Egypt, that God tells Moshe, Chodesh Hazalachem Rosh Chodashim. At this month, that of Nisan is the beginning of all the months. So we see, in fact, already God says that, in fact, Rosh Hashanah should be the first day of Nisan based on this, right? And it says, in fact, God showed the moon to Moshe to say, this is what a new moon looks like. So there's two ways to look at it. Now, what is the difference between Nisan and Tishrei? Nisan is mainly the revelation. God, we say in Haggadah, God reveals himself to us. And that is how the whole Exodus story happened, right? Especially on the full moon, the 15th day, that's when the Exodus happened. It's all about revelation, even though we were not worthy for it, because we were stuck in Egypt impurity, the 49 gates of impurity as it's described. Still, even though, not because of any great qualities that we were doing on our level, but we were gifted from above down. Revelation, that happened. Whereas Tishrei, what is Tishrei? Tishrei is working from bottom up. We do tshuva, right? That's all about working on it, so inner processing. And only when we work through ourselves, we make ourselves the right vessel to receive that highest state of divinity and bringing it into our lives. So again, that Nisan represents the Or Yashar, the up-down way, top-bottom way, whereas Tishrei is the bottom-up, right? But like in economics, either trickle-down economics or what we're percolating up economics, maybe it's called. I don't know. So that is the first months of these two systems of the year, the annual cycle. Then we know what comes on the third month. What's the third month from Nisan? Meaning 2 months later is when was the Matan Torah? When did God again reveal from up coming down to us into this world? Was Sivan. That was the third month from Nisan, Nisan Iyar Sivan. So yes, it's true that we also worked through ourselves through the second month, Iyar, and that's what Sphira corresponds to. And in fact, Mount Sinai was a way, like a mountain elevating, that it was in itself was elevating to meet above and down. There's some elevation happening, but it's mainly by Hashem al Har Sinai, the God descending and revealing his essence to us in the physical world. So again, it's top bottom. That's on the third month. So that is on that count. So what are we from Tishrei? What is the month of Kislev? It's the third month again. So you have Tishrei. Then you have the month that has the least or almost no holidays. That's in between Cheshvan. Then comes Kislev. So Kislev corresponds to almost like that level of when the completion, just like Sivan, the Matan Torah is a completion of shine radiating from above down. So too, this month of Kislev encapsulates the way of the bottom up way is being fully realized all the way. Okay, so and we'll soon see how. All right. So that is what makes this whole month of Kislev. I mean, the most obvious part of aspect of holiday that we have in Kislev is what does the month end with? Which great fun holiday? Hanukkah, right? So Hanukkah is, and again, that's light, right? But what kind of light is it? It's not a time when everything is shining, springtime and all that. In fact, in Kislev, especially at the end of Kislev, is a time when the nights are longest, the shortest days, when it's the most intense darkness in the world. Okay? So Kislev, and yet there, through Hanukkah, let's say, we're able to bring out light and reveal. So that's the difference. Nisan is light when it's a time of light anyways. But it's Dafket this month when it's dark, and to bring out light that is, first of all, more of in a Chodesh, that there's light even in the darkness permeating. And it's a great, in a way, ironically, it's a greater light, that only the greatest of light can really penetrate and transform the darkness. And also we see the light more. Right? If I have a bright room and I add another light, you won't see that much the difference. Whereas if I have a dark room and I light, put on even even light a match, it's going to illuminate. You're going to see how much greater that light is. So, and like we were speaking earlier, that the bottom up way is that when we're working on ourselves down here and transforming it, we're making it more permanent and making it even more. It's more of the specialness of efficacy of the light that to work the channel. Okay, so that isn't what Kislev represents. Now, in fact, now I'm going to show you how this plugs into the name itself. And here I'm going to share a screen on. Up here. So here. So the name Kislev, right? So in fact, the Kabbalists say you could split it into two. Kos, chav samach, that comes from the word to cover. Like we have the verse related to Rosh Hashanah. And bakesa means by the covering, like to be concealed or hidden. Like almost like the moon is hidden, right? That's bakesa. It's like when the moon is most hidden, it's the beginning of the month. Then liyom chagenu. So that's the kos part. All right, the hiddenness. That means almost like the month of Kislev begins, like all months begin. You start with dark moon, and then you have new moon, and then the moon increases day by day till the full moon on the 15th of the month of the Hebrew month, right? So that is the kos. So the month is beginning with darkness. But then it builds up to love, or lamed vav. So lamed vav, what is the gematria? Same word as of Eila. These are. Eila means when something is, these are, that you can see it openly. It's revealed, and it's in a state of revelation. So again, the Kislev month is telling us that even if we're on this lower level, take the darkness, the kos, and make it lamed vav. Make it in a state of revealing it, that so you could point at and say, here it is, this is it. Okay? And in fact, that is the higher level of light, that you're able to take the darkness and make it light. Okay? Another thing, incidentally, and this is brought down also in Bnei Sachar and other places, what is the connection of 36 with Hanukkah? Does anyone know? Second day is 2, so 1 plus 2 is 3. Third day is 3, so 3 plus 3 is 6, yada, yada, yada. If you count it up that way, how many candles have you lit over the whole Hanukkah? Here you have it, 36, okay? That means it's the month you begin with darkness, but you end off with the 36 lights of Hanukkah, bringing full revelation. Also, 36 is 6 times 6. 6 in Kabbalah, in the Sfirot, are the 6 main Sfirot, Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, and Yesod, the ones most essential to our emotions and behavior. So when we work through our 6 Sfirot in detail, 6 times 6, like our Chesed Shebi Gvura, our Tiferet Shebi Yesod, and so on and so forth, that's 6 times 6. That means we've purified and illuminated our full our main part of us, of our sephirotic or our middle attributes of us. So that's also 36, okay? So that is the light of that is coming here. Another thing. And now, what is this? What is this light? That this great light that is translating into 36. So it's also brought down in Kabbalah that this is tapping in to the very original light of Gan Eden, of the Garden of Eden, beginning of creation. When God says in the first day of creation, right? And that light, that pure light, it was really great and revealed. But then Adam and Chava sinned. So God then concealed the light till the times of Mashiach. Okay, so this is known as the Ur HaGanuz, and which is time saying 7-fold intensity, sometimes 70 times intensity. So now, what is this great light that Adam and Chava had? Actually, technically, was even after they sinned. They still had residue of it afterwards. Well, how is it? What is it? What is its connection to 36? Does anyone know? And this is related to Motzei Shabbat, and that is according. I think it's even in the Midrash. It says that this concealed light, that God didn't conceal the light right away, right after they sinned, but he kept it going till afterwards, even till Motzei Shabbat, for 36 hours. The purest of the most intense of the divine light shined. So the Lamed Vav, the 36, corresponds to 36 hours of the highest light. And that is the light that comes to Motzei Shabbat, which is incidentally why there's a custom. Some people, even Motzei Shabbat, they light a candle again. Okay? Because they want the light to continue into late Saturday night to make up that it should be 36 hours, basically a day and a half, corresponding to that. So we see the purest of light is again connected to the number 36. And therefore, actually, once after Adam and Chava sinned, what does God call out to them? What does he say? What's the famous word? Ayeka, right? Where are you? Ayeka. What is the gematria of Ayeka? I have this over here on the chart also. Aleph Yud Chaf Hey is 36. So when God was calling out Ayeka, he was reminding them that God was reminding Adam and Chava, look, I've given you the highest level of light. Why did you guys mess up? How could you have been preoccupied with darkness when you were treated with such amazing light? Okay, so that is the Lamed Vav, the 36. No, we know. I mean, incidentally, it's not related. We know that the idea of the 36 hidden tzaddikim, but in a way, it is connected. Why? Because tzaddik means the purity of light. Hidden means being in a state of hiddenness, keeping it covered. That's similar to here, Kislev. That in other words, like either starting off with darkness, concealment, and then going to illumination, from the Kas to Lamed Vav, one way to look at it, or that through the hiddenness, we're able to bring out light. Like the Hanukkah example and so on. Through the darkness, in the darkness itself, we bring out the light. So tzaddik nistar, the hidden tzaddik, in a way, it's hidden to the world, but if you know how to tap in, you could even realize it in itself. Incidentally, I have here too, like how many Masechtas do we have Gemara for? We know there's 60 actual Masechtas of Mishnah, but how many do we have Talmud Bavli, Babylonian Talmud? Is 36. What's the connection? Because according to the Midrash and Kabbalah and things, the Bavli, Talmud Bavli, which has many, it's very elaborative and there's a lot of questions in it to which you need responses. That corresponds, if Torah is, we say Torah is light, that Bavli Talmud corresponds to the light that has to work its way through the darkness. When we have questions, uncertainties, confusions, also Bavli is very difficult to learn. So it's all obfuscated, it's all concealed almost. It's clarity. And you have to work your way through understanding the Gemara, Daf Yomi, whatever way, till you see, Eureka, it starts lighting up the great, what you're learning. So that's also why the Bavli Talmud is 36, because it's corresponding to this particular type of light and light of Torah. A way that of the light that comes through working through the darkness. Okay? Now, I have here also that it's just etymologically, the word Kislev is also related more to the word trust. Kislev, Kislo, I don't know if it's in what language, I know ancient Akkadian or some other, maybe in the Bible too. It is, or some say it's also related to the word ksil, which means a fool. Why? Because the fool is because that's the way you get sometimes what seems like darkness or it's nonsense. Sometimes that's the way you get to the innermost wisdom and truth. And also because, and as of the word trust, because you need trust and faith to work through the darkness and say that even though it's dark, we can still find light here. Okay? Pesach adds one more thing that I think he says that there's 3 words related to light: Oyer, Ner, and Me'orot. And he says that this is in Chumash, it's these 3 words are mentioned 36 times. So again, there's a connection to this idea of light or illumination or candles or luminaries with the number 36. By the way, before we continue, also the word Lamed Vav, Lamed Vav 36 is also a word. Loi means to him, right? There's a verse, I think it's Isaiah, that says, B'chol tzarasam leitzar. In all their suffering, Loi means to God, there's suffering. So there's 2 ways to say, there's a Kri and a Ksiv there. The way it's written and the way we say it. And I forget which is which. One way it says Loi Aleph, and mean that when we're suffering, God is not amongst us, is not suffering amongst us, because God is beyond physical pain and all that, of course. That's the conventional way to say it. But then there's the even deeper say, that with us, God is also suffering with us. Like we say Shchinta, that the Galusa, even the Shchinta is in Galus with us suffering. Well, what does that mean? We're not going to go into the theological meanings of it. But here we see the Loi is to him almost a third person possessive, meaning that there's a connection with the divine even here, even in the darkness, even in the suffering. That's what the word Loi. Okay. So that's the trust. Okay, so let's go weiter. The letter, according to Sefer Yitzir, associated with this month is Samach. Samach is also has the word from the verse we say in Ashi, Seimach Hashem l'chol neifim. God supports all those that fall. By the way, incidentally, the month before Cheshvan is the letter Nun. So letter Nun is the Noflim, those that mamish fall. Like we know, Cheshvan has absolutely no holidays. We're going from the highest of the high of Tishrei to the lowest of the low, in a way, of Cheshvan. We'll fall all up. We have like the crash after the party, so to speak. That's the Nothab. Comes the 3rd month, the Kislev and says, no, I'm going to pick you up again, give you support again. Even in your lowest state that you fell in the darkness, face down, we're going to lift you up again. And that is the Somech, the Samach. And also Samach it's circular. There's no beginning, no end. It's tapping into that non-linear state, that state of where the essence shines equally for all. Okay? Now, in Zodiac, in other form, it's in Hebrew we call it Keshet, which means rainbow. In English, we call it Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius, which is the archer. It's also the time when Orion is most illuminated in the sky. So in a way, maybe next week we'll discuss more the detail of how it's related, like the Keshet part of it. But just think of it, it's leaking from one end to the other, shooting, revealing, yada, yada. Body part, it's related to Keva. Keva is the stomach. It's like processing, it's digesting that which the light till we bring it out in great energy. And in our senses and behaviors, like each of the months has something, one vision, one sound, yada, yada. This month is related to Shena, to sleep. Okay, because in sleep, it's not just that we're asleep, but that's even in our sleep, we even if we're in a solemn state, slumber state, even there, we have this awareness and light. In fact, they say that people who are worrying too much, I don't know what's happening, they can't fall asleep. They're uncertain about things. It's those that are happy and certain and have trust, again, to the word Kislev, trust. They have confidence in themselves that they could sleep easily, okay? So the sleep of Kislev is not just, is in a way a positive way of sleeping. We're sleeping because we could surrender to that state of re-energizing. Because we have that light, even if it's not fully revealed, at least it's within us, okay? Just to add a little bit more to the month, is the combination of, and we've spoken in the past, that every month has a different combination of God's name. Yud Ke Vav Ke is Nisan. I forget what is the years. Yud Ke was what Yud Ke Hey Vav. I forget it. Blah blah blah. This month there's 12 different possible combinations. This month is Vav Yud Hey Hey, and this is the acronym of the verse from the end of Bereshit Maichi, where it says that Yaakov was buried or brought down or some, I think it's related to that. Yaakov Yeshiv Ha'eretz HaKnani. So it's sitting in the Canaanite land. So that's the idea of settling, and even in Canaanite state, we could bring a state of revelation by Yar, illuminated, and in a way of Yoshev, of settled with Menucha, let's call it, right? Right. More specifically, Kabbalistically, as based on what we've learned in the past and even earlier tonight, normally Yud is the highest, then that's the emanator coming down to Hey, which is receiving, and then transforming to go lower to the Vav, and going higher to the ultimate receiving is the lowest Hey, second Hey. So that's the normal level down. But here we're saying a different flip. We're saying first, we're not working on the receiving receptacles. We're first working on the emanator ones, which is the Yud and Vav. But we're not beginning with the Yud, that means the God level of emanating, but with the Vav, that is the lower level, our level. Vav is like an extension that comes down to us, also representing a sphere of the six. Vav is six sphere chesed words, netzach yisod. So here too, we see this idea of bottom up, or chayzer, returning. Now we're first starting with the Vav, down with us, our reality, but in the way we emanate up, that shines up to the Yud, that's above, that's the divine God state of emanator, that activates that Yud above, and then that flips and transforms down to bring down to us into the two Hays. So here too, even in the combination Yikibavke for this month, we see this idea of bottom up, Erchayzer. Okay. So the way I understand is this month is Keshet, which means rainbow, which is Archer, which is Sagittarius. That, how it's connected to Orion or not, I don't know. Orion, we know, is the image of an archer up in the sky. Back to our regular program. So that is Kislev in more of that way, so Yitzir Kabbalistically. And now I'm going to share with you even more deeper according to Chassidus, and also based on what I heard the Rebbe speaking about it, especially in the last year that he bring down a Kislev. He spoke some amazing things related to this about Kislev. This idea of Kos and Lamed Vav, and that Lamed Vav is 36, which is the word Eila, is actually, the Rebbe said this, and it's actually based on his father. The Rebbe's father, Rebbe Levi Yisrael, was an amazing, incredible, deep Kabbalist. And this Vart of 36 being Eila is from his father. The Rebbe shared it. But the Rebbe went deeper. Okay, firstly, it's the whole month is called Kislev. Like we just spoke about, when is the light coming out? We said is at the, and like what we know holiday-wise, with Hanukkah lights, it's coming at the very end of the month, the 25th. In fact, it doesn't even finish there. It overlaps with the beginning of the next month of Teves. Teves, in fact, has the word good, and that's why I say that God saw the light, and it is good. Kitov, that the light of Hanukkah of Kislev passes into Teves, the Tov of good of Teves. But really, we say we have Rosh Chodesh. That's tomorrow night of Kislev. The second day of Kislev is actually literally Rosh Chodesh, the first day of Kislev, right? What's the word Rosh and Chodesh? Word Chodesh, month, not this month, comes from the word Chadash, being new. right? Rosh Chodesh means the head of the new, meaning it's the beginning of bringing new light into the world, right? So when do we see the very first of light of the month beginning? On Rosh Chodesh. So that means, and just like a head contains the whole, what's subsequent that's coming, just like we say Rosh Hashanah, it's the first day of the year, but it contains the energy for the whole year to come. So in a way, the beginning of the month, Rosh Chodesh contains everything to come further. Okay. But it's not revealed. It's still, like we said, the Kos. Kos is Chav Sameh, that's concealed. Now, let me ask you, when is the light most bright in a month? I know I'm asking very rudimentary questions, but there's a reason for it. When does the light actually shine? When does the moon, rather, shine the most in the month? It wasn't the first day of the month of Nisan, but it was on the 15th day, because you wanted the open revealed of the full shine of the moon then. Okay, so in fact, when should we be celebrating the most brightest time of the month? Should be full moon, not beginning of the month, new moon, right? In fact, there's a medrash that says, that sees the unfolding of revelation of the divinity in the world, that Avraham and Yitzchak and so on represents the beginning of the month, and then expands and goes till culminates with Shlomo, King Solomon, who built the temple, that represents the 15th of the month. As the term in Zayar is Kai Masira Bashlam Musa, that the moon exists in its fullness, its wholeness, and that's the name. Shlomo means also Shalem, whole, that the moon is whole. That's representing Shlomo. So we see that the climax almost of light should be the 15th of the month. Yet the Rebbe said there's something very unique about the new moon. I'm sorry, that means the first day of the month when the moon begins to shine, then when it's full moon. What is it? He said, and it's related to what we were saying before. When new full moon, 15th of the month, the moon is shining very much. But what was the day before? It also shone, maybe less so, and the day before they're also shone less so, blah, blah. So still getting by the 15th versus the days before it's all relational and in gradation. It's not an absolute shift. It's just like 15th day is a little bit more brighter than the 14th, it's a little bit more brighter than the 13th, and backwards, right? Or right to first. So there's not less of a chiddush, less of a uniqueness, newness, innovation in the light shining at its fullest on the 15th of the month, right? When do we see the most chiddush of light coming in during the night to us? It's dafka, the very first beginning of the month, the stirrings, what we call the moled, when the moon is just birthed. And then, on the Rosh Chodesh. And it's dafka then we go from complete, and then, on the Rosh Chodesh. And it's dafka then we go from complete darkness to the tiny sliver of the moon. Now, even though it's just a tiny bit of light then, but the contrast and what we're accomplishing and what we're indicating here is greater than the brightest light that can be of the moon from the 15th month. Because we're showing even now, even when the day before was absolute dark moon time, there was darkness altogether. But even through this can permeate, that light can permeate through and through, and showing we can transform even the darkness and bring light out of it. Like we were saying before, there's a bigger emphasis and sense of light when you light, even strike a small match in a dark room, than if you even lit a big fire in a fully illuminated room, right? So that is what the first day of the month, the uniqueness and greatness of it. So it's twofold, both. As we said before, the beginning of the month and the birthing is like everything contains everything that's coming later. to unfold. So the energy to unfold and make brighter throughout the rest of the month, all the way till Chanukah of Kislev, already is beginning with the Rosh Chodesh. But even more so, on the first day of Kislev itself, we're already bringing out this greatness, this whole new way of light, that even when things are most dark, you could bring out light right away. Now, of course, this relates to every Rosh Chodesh. Every Rosh Chodesh, we go from dark moon to new moon. But Kislev, again, because of its name, and because in the time of year, it's a time when the nights are longest and it's most dark. So this is the time where you see the contrast more. You're going in the deepest and darkest of time of the year. And even then, you could bring out the first stirrings of light and sliver of the moon light, and to bring light even in the darkness, through the darkness. So that's why Dafka Kislev expresses this idea, and why this light, we don't even have to wait till the end of Chanukah of this month to start bringing the light, but already now, even when it's the time of Kos, the part of the month, even here, we're already bringing out the full light all the way. And with this, the Rebbe actually connected it with a very interesting thing. What is the first prayer? What is the first thing we do when we wake up? Moda'ani. Very good. So Moda'ani, and it's brought down in Chassidus, and actually there's a whole long, very interesting explanation of the Rebbe about how Moda'ani, it brings out the essence of the soul. It's translated into English as on the essence of Chassidus. And that the Moda'ani we're saying we don't even say God's name because we didn't even wash our hands yet. And even when we're in a state we're not fully pure, we're able to say this prayer because the very essence of our soul, which is, the Yechida of our soul, which is like that singularity aspect of our soul. We spoke before about the 5 levels of soul, and Yechida is the highest. So that corresponds with Moda'ani, because we're tapped into that. And the Rebbe explained also, Moda is Gematria 55, which is Nun Hey, which is the word Hain, and it's brought down in Medrash and other places, the word Hain, Am Lavadid Yishka, and the word Hain represents the Yechida part of our soul, and what have you, etc. Okay, good. So that is all beautiful. So we think we're starting with Yechida, but really the Rebbe said there's something, and this, I remember when the Rebbe said this 31 years ago, was a big Chiddush. The Rebbe said, guess what? You think that's the highest level. That's the way it's always brought down in it's taught in Chassidus. But the Rebbe said that there's a state even higher than that. And what is that? That it says in the Siddur, when you open up the Siddur, especially in the Chabad Siddur and other Siddur, it says, Miyad kishaneir mishinasai yaimar zeh. Right when you wake up from your sleep, you should say the following, which is Moda'ani. So even before saying Moda'ani, there's instruction right when you wake up. You should, right? So the Rebbe was saying that the waking up, that's the highest level altogether. Even before you say anything, even before you just waking up, stirring, going from a state of sleep to awakeness is in itself the greatest transformation. And and even before you say any words, it transcends any other. It is the most existential shift that we have. As we know, sleep is brought down in Gemara and other places. Sleep is like a 60th of death in a way. And then, therefore, we think that's why we say the Moda'ani, that we become alive again. But that's what we're doing. We're going from a state of lack of the opposite of full life to awakeness life. And so that is deeper, the Rebbe said, even than the level of the soul of Yechida. Because Yechida, singularity, even though we commonly explain in Kabbalah, says that's the highest state of the soul. But the Rebbe, and I've heard the Rebbe say this in other contexts also, in other ways. Yechida itself, he said, is a name. It's a term. It's a label that we're giving to the essence of the soul. So already, it's a packaging of the essence of the soul in a certain way that we can relate. But then there's the essence of the soul that we don't even have a name for it. The unnameable essence. the essence of the soul that transcends any labeling, any categorization, etc., etc. That is just etzem haneshama, the essence of the soul qua essence. That's it. That part of the soul is what we tap into when we go from sleep to awakeness. And that, right? And that it is, and that is what is similar, and that is what is happening with the new moon too, with Rosh Chodesh. We're going from the absolute darkness to the very beginning of illumination. It's not just the beginning in the weakened sense, but it's the beginning that contains, as we said before, everything. And in fact, that's making the most of a statement of shift, of going from one extreme to the other. Right? The Rebbe also connected this with the different ways of faith. He said that great, adults, especially great studious people, especially Kabbalists and people, they speak like we were learning, like the Rihanna Kabbalah before. Oh, they're going to talk about different levels of the soul and the worlds and da 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 da. It's all very complicated. All that. That is, we're trying to get to it's all talking around the essence of God, but not to God Himself. Who gets God all the way to the very core is Dafka children. They don't have any names or anything. They just say the creator. It's not a name. It's just God exists, even if they don't have any names or terms for it. In fact, the Gemara, I think it's the Gemara says that it goes through different rabbis and Damirayim. That how do you call God? How do you describe God when you pray to Him? Like we say, we say in the beginning, we give all these terms, which is all very beautiful. But then I forget who it was. It says, "Ani mispalal al daza atinek." I just pray to the God of the children, meaning the children don't have any great fancy descriptions or theological notions of what is God, who is God. They just know God. They sense, feel, have pure faith, simple faith. God. So the great scholar rabbi said, when it comes to praying to God Himself, I put aside all the attributes and descriptions, honorifics, and just straight to God. And that is, in fact, the highest level. And that is what we tap into in every Rosh Chodesh, and particularly the Rosh Chodesh, this Rosh Chodesh of Kislev. Okay? And getting to its core. So that is in very, very, just in a way, I just extended a bit more for Kislev in this way, just because this is the opening, and also because Jonathan requested in the past that at least we should 1 week of the month focus on the meaning of the month. So I hope this covers, and also because this month there's a lot happening in Kislev, especially on the Hasidic calendar. Meaning Hasidic calendar, I mean also particularly the Chabad Hasidic calendar, that there's holidays galore. First of all, Rosh Chodesh Kislev in Lubavitch is very important. That was the song we were singing before. It's known as the Rosh Chodesh Kislev song. What happened? I think I mentioned this last year, around this time, that it was the time the Lubavitch Rebbe had a heart attack during Simchas Torah, Shmiyat Atzeret HaKafot, and it took him, and it was very serious. He actually had more than one heart attack. It was very life threatening, and then he finally recuperated at home, and he finally went home. That means that he was getting a lot better, and finally was on Rosh Chodesh of Kislev in 1977, and the Hasidim made that a holiday from then. The Rebbe's health, that he physically got better. And then there's other holidays throughout Kislev. The 10th of Kislev is the day of liberation of the second Chabad Rebbe from prison. The 9th is also, it's his birthday, and Yartzeit is the 10th, and 9th he was liberated. Then the 13th, there was a whole court case in Lubavitch several decades ago with Sparin. Something you get. The 13th of Kislev was the first victory in that aspect. The 14th of Kislev is the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the last Lubavitcher Rebbe's anniversary of his wedding. Then we have the most famous of the Kislev is Yutes Kislev, the 19th of Kislev, when the first Chabad Rebbe was freed from prison, from Tsarist Russia. it's the 19th and 20th Kislev, but it's not just a Chabad. 19th is not just Chabad, but 19th Kislev is also the yahrzeit of the Maggid of Nazrich. So all Chassidim commemorate 19th Kislev, and only then we go to Chanukah. And even within Chanukah, there's a holiday where a bunch of very important Chassidim were freed from Tsarist Russia on the third or fifth candle night of Hanukkah. Okay, do you see it's all packed? So that is so may we continue in just bringing out the light in this month, and building, this upcoming month, and taking all this and knowing how to work with the light in the best of ways.